Hi again, everybody. I'm Dan Hoard. He is Dave Lapham. It's time for the Radio Guys recap. We are just outside the Bengals locker room here in Baltimore. Final score 23-17, so it was a one-score game. That suggests it was close, but the rushing numbers were anything but. 269 yards on the ground for the Ravens, 33 for the Bengals.
Take away a jet sweep. Alex Erickson is 17 yards, 13 carries, 16 yards for the Bengals on the ground. I mean, you just can't compete when it's that type of situation. Ravens ran it 43 times for 269, well over 6 yards a carry, a couple of touchdowns. You know, their MO is to run away with the football, play keep away, play hide. And the Bengals had 3 drives in the second half. So, you know, you're in a point where you have to get on the football field to try to mount a comeback. They did score a touchdown, but it was, you know, too little too late, as we said so many times during the course of this football game. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens basically played the game on their terms, and the Bengals have not been able to play any game on their terms this whole season. And, you know, they've lost by 1 point, 3 points, 4 points, 6 points. But, you know, this one didn't seem like it was just 6 points.
Lamar Jackson is so tough. If he stays healthy, it's an incredible weapon, but it's dangerous to have a quarterback run that much. But not only do you have to worry about him taking off and running, he's hard to rush because as a pass rusher, you don't want to blow by him. And then when you're trying to cover people in the secondary, you always have to keep an eye open just in case he takes off and runs.
Well, I think the 24-yard scramble that the Arizona Cardinals had at the end of the game when Lawson ripped up the football field and rushed past Murray, and Geno Atkins took an inside rush and he went 24, that made an impression on some guys. And now you start to mush rush, I call it a little bit, where you're not rushing past the quarterback. You're trying to stay in your lane, put pressure on him, and try to squeeze the pocket on him. But he's clever. You know, I mean, he still finds rush lanes. He's a lot more. He's looking at a lot more reads down the football field. But eventually, if he doesn't like what he sees, he's going to tuck that thing and try to hit a distorted rush lane, and he's going to kill you. I mean, the guy, he did basically what he 50 carries coming into today's game. And a lot of them were off scrambles, and there were a few design quarterback run calls. There were a few, but not many. I mean, last year, 15 to 17 times a game with design quarterback runs. I think this year it's probably closer to 10 coming into today's game. I don't think there were 10 today, design quarterback runs. And then when he scrambled, he's such a weapon. I mean, he's dynamic. He's electric. I mean, anything you can think of, kid is he's an incredible football player.
Nothing has come easily on offense right now. It seems like every yard is pulling out wisdom teeth. Joe Mixon, 8 carries for 10 yards in the game. We know how good he is. Is what I'm talking about basically the result of having an offensive line that just is not that strong?
An offensive line that's not that strong, and your 2 deep receivers aren't in the football game. One drive, it was a 1-yard completion, a 3-yard completion, a 5-yard completion, a 13, then back to a 6. I mean, it was, you know, Andy Dalton was 7 for 8 for 40 yards, 5 yards an attempt. You know, it's basically part of your outside running game is throwing the ball in these outs, and because you don't, I mean, they're crowding you, and you know, you don't have anybody to, you know, run behind them, stretch the football field, and put it over their heads. So as a result, the fact that they're crowding the lines, they're also crowding the box. If you have somebody that can stretch the field, it opens the box up too. So now you don't have any speed on the football field. The trickle-down effect is huge. I mean, when you don't have your 3 best receivers, A.J. Green and John Ross, and those 2 guys, the outside guys that stretch it, and everything else becomes easier in the middle of the football field. When you don't have the stretching, the middle of the football field is high traffic now. I mean, it's heavy traffic pattern. It's tough. That's why it is. It's like root canal surgery. Every single drive, it's like, you have to be perfect, and there's only a few things you can do. Baltimore Ravens game plan was wide open to them. Bengals game plan was like, can't do this, can't do that, can't. All of a sudden you get 2 options. Baltimore's got 10 choices on, you know, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 2. Bengals have 2 choices on 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8. It's totally different dynamic. I mean, hopefully they start to get some weapons back, and you know, not to mention the offensive line. John Jerry did everything he could. That's the 4th guy at the left tackle spot, and Alex Redmond's been back a week, and he's playing in the right guard spot because of an injury to John Miller. So, I mean, more issues in the magazine stand, man.
Last thing, one positive: the Bengals have found a kick returner. Brandon Wilson had a 52-yarder last week, 92 yards for a touchdown today. The first Bengals kick returner to take one to the house since 2009.
He's impressive. I mean, he makes a decision, he goes. I mean, no wasted time. He can scoot, he can fly. He almost had a bookend of excellence in special teams. At the very end of the game on the onside kick, when Airborne made a great play, was a yard short of the ball, advancing 10 yards, though, so they don't get the football, and they're penalized. It didn't go 10 yards for the onside kick opportunity, but he was close. He almost made a dynamic play there, and he gave him a boost. There's no question about it. He gave him a lift on that kickoff return. You know, you get an unconventional, unscripted score like that. That's what kept the game close in the first half. I mean, at halftime, the numbers were nuts. But that kickoff return, the Bengals, you know, they're defensively, they're allowing a ton of yards, track meet between the 20s, but they're not allowing a whole lot of touchdowns. They're keeping the game, you know, close enough if the offense could do anything.
They held the Ravens to 23. That's 9 under their average, but Baltimore won the game 23-17. We'll see if the Bengals can get their first win next week at home against Jacksonville. For Dave Lapham, I'm Dan Hoard. Thanks for checking out the Radio Guys Recap here on Bengals.com.